Before we cross into the unknown, leave a hello in the comments. Even the smallest signal can ripple across galaxies, guiding fellow wanderers to this tale. Let me know you're out there. A voice among the stars, listening with me beyond the veil. Engines roared as the human warships tore through the void, a symphony of metal and fire. Commander Elias Vorn gripped the bridge rail, eyes locked on the retreating alien convoy. Memories clawed at him. Centuries ago, these species had fled when humanity's colonies burned, leaving Earth alone to bleed. His fists tightened. "We were abandoned," he muttered, voice raw. The sensors blinked, displaying the approaching fleet. This was no mercy mission. This was reckoning. Every ship under his command carried the fury of a civilization betrayed, and today the hunters would become the hunted. A flashback tore through Elias's mind. The last stand at Perseus Gate. Allies had promised reinforcements, but one by one they disengaged, leaving human battalions to fall. Explosions had swallowed comrades, screams echoing across space. He remembered Lieutenant Kara's final words. "Don't forget, fight. Survive." Elias's teeth clenched. That memory had shaped him, molded him into a commander who would never forgive. The enemy now approached, unknowing of the storm awaiting. The bridge vibrated with anticipation. Vengeance wasn't just a goal, it was inevitable. Elias hovered over the tactical map, the outlines of enemy cruisers glowing in red. Every formation reminded him of the betrayal at Perseus Gate. Allied ships had slipped away under the cover of ion storms, leaving humans to die. His voice cracked through the comms. Target their supply lines first. Let them taste the fear they left behind. Below, gun crews readied plasma batteries. Memories of his crew dying, trapped in gravity wells, fueled his decisions. Humanity's survival had been a miracle then. Now it was vengeance incarnate, precise and lethal. The screams of officers as the first alien dreadnought had emerged, its hull glowing with forbidden energy. Elias had watched, frozen by despair, as friends were shredded by weapons meant to annihilate entire fleets. The Allies hadn't even flinched. They had left. Today, every strike he ordered was a whisper to those ghosts. You will not leave them again. Sensors pinged. Their shields were weak. Vorn's lips curled into a grim smile. History would not repeat itself. Humanity would write the final chapter in fire and wreckage. Across the Orion corridor as Vorn's fleet cut through the alien blockade. He activated Retribution Protocol, a new AI command sequence designed to anticipate enemy maneuvers. "Calculate all exits," he commanded. The system hummed, lights flickering across the deck. His crew moved with robotic precision, each step a dance of survival honed by decades of betrayal. The alien vessels faltered as human torpedoes found gaps in their formation. Vorn's heart raced, not fear, but exhilaration. Humanity had waited a lifetime for this moment, and no alien coward would escape. The past bled into the present again. Vorn recalled Admiral Tainer's words before humanity's last stand. "Trust is a weapon. Use it wisely, or it will kill you." He had seen trust broken, fleets abandoned, and worlds scorched. Now, vengeance was a weapon he wielded without hesitation. Plasma lances pierced enemy hulls, explosions painted the void. Each ship that fell was a ledger entry in the memory of betrayal. "Hold the line," Vorn shouted, eyes alight. Humanity's fury was no longer a reaction. It was premeditated justice, delivered with surgical precision. The sensors caught movement on the far edge of the system. Hidden, cloaked ships, their former allies, were observing. Vorn's jaw tightened. Betrayal had a long shadow. "Prepare interception grids," he barked. The fleet adjusted course, weaving through debris fields and asteroid belts. Memories of Perseus Gate sharpened his focus. Allies who had promised support were ghosts now, silent witnesses to human suffering. Today, their silence would be paid in fire. Each crew member knew the stakes, the unspoken vow passing through generations of survivors. Humanity's vengeance was methodical, inevitable, and merciless. The moment when allies turned, retreating under enemy fire, leaving humans exposed. Vorn had screamed orders that would never be obeyed. Ships exploded around him, a ballet of death. Lieutenant Kara's sacrifice had kept a dozen vessels alive, yet the betrayal had overshadowed heroism. Now, that same silence would be answered in kind. Vorn's fleet advanced, plasma and missiles primed. The betrayers' technology would fall, their trust shattered in reverse. History had left humanity behind once. They would not make the same mistake twice. Louder than ever as the fleet surged towards the main alien armada. Vorn's hands danced over the controls, issuing a cascade of orders that synchronized every ship. The bridge glowed with tactical displays, each symbol representing lives once lost and revenge now delivered. Memories of burned colonies fueled every decision. The alien command vessel loomed ahead, unaware of the storm descending upon it. "All units, unleash everything," Vorn growled. Every torpedo, every plasma charge, every strike was the embodiment of decades of betrayal and the final word on human endurance. The night Earth's orbit burned with enemy fire, allies drifting away into the void. He remembered the faces of young cadets, wide-eyed with fear, many never to return. Those memories now powered his wrath. The alien fleet's hulls ignited under concentrated plasma strikes. Vorn watched with grim satisfaction as chaos consumed the once impervious enemy. Today, humanity was not only surviving, it was dominating. Shields flared, and in that roar, Vorn felt the ghosts of Perseus Gate at peace. Humanity's vengeance had begun. Vorn's fleet slipped through an asteroid field, sensors tracking faint energy signatures. Shadows danced between the rocks. Enemy stealth frigates. He felt the old sting of betrayal sharpen. These were scouts, probing, testing defenses just like their allies had tested humanity's resolve centuries ago. "Target acquisition. Lock on all signatures," he commanded. Missiles streaked across the void, exploding in fiery blooms. Each strike reminded him of the human lives abandoned at Perseus Gate, fueling a precision born of pain and memory. No ship would slip through today. The cold, bitter realization that allies had disappeared mid-battle. Vorn had begged for support, watched friends die in silence. The betrayal had left scars deeper than any wound. Now, he lets that memory drive strategy. Cloaked enemies erupted in plasma fire, but human defenses were preemptive, anticipating each move. The fleet danced in lethal choreography, every explosion echoing vengeance. The past guided the present, shaping tactics that no alien force, nor cowardly ally, could survive. Humanity had learned from history, and history would not be repeated. Vorn's fleet engaged the main armada. Plasma lances lit the darkness, painting space in orange and violet streaks. The AI whispered predictive maneuvers, translating decades of tactical memory into flawless coordination. Vorn gritted his teeth, recalling fleets cut in half when allies had fled. "Form wedge! Cut through their flank!" he ordered. His voice carried over the bridge comms like a hammer striking iron. Each ship surged, colliding with enemy formations in bursts of fire. Memory of betrayal had sharpened him into a commander who demanded perfection. Anything less was unacceptable. The night Perseus Gate fell, when human ships were overwhelmed. Vorn had watched the enemy crush friend and foe alike, allies abandoning their posts. Screams, flames, and cold metal haunted him. Now, the roles had reversed. Enemy ships burned in formation, unable to escape coordinated volleys. Vorn's fury transformed into artistry, each strike a note in humanity's symphony of vengeance. Today, there would be no retreat, no betrayal, only fire, only precision, only humanity reclaiming its honor in the void. The fleet swept through an alien defensive array. Sensor warnings blinked. Trap corridors designed to imitate ambush points humans had once walked blindly into. Memories of Perseus Gate guided every decision. Hold formation, ignore baited zones, Vorn instructed. Behind him, the bridge crew moved like extensions of his memory, anticipating enemy tricks. The AI whispered predictive countermeasures, each action a mirror of past failures now corrected. Humanity had learned its blood lessons. Betrayal had forged a sharper, more unyielding fleet. The final retreat, when humans had been left stranded amidst exploding cruisers, Vorn had felt the hollow echo of allies disappearing, leaving despair to settle over the survivors. That pain was now a weapon. As enemy drones swarmed, human turrets cut them down before they reached the fleet. Vorn's eyes reflected every explosion. Justice, retribution, a history rewritten in fire. Memory fueled every strike, every evasive maneuver, every decision. Humanity's vengeance was no longer reactive. It was preemptive, merciless, and absolute. Enemy cruisers attempted a pincer maneuver. Vorn's tactical AI predicted every vector, honed by centuries of human adaptation and betrayal lessons. "Engage, Point Delta, initiate counter crossfire," he shouted. The fleet responded like a single organism, plasma streams crisscrossing the void, shattering alien shields. Vorn's mind replayed the ghosts of fallen comrades, their screams, the betrayal of absent allies. Each ship that exploded in fiery arcs was a ledger entry in his memory, a reckoning for every life once abandoned. Vorn's desperation during humanity's last stand, watching Crossfire rip his forces apart while allies vanished into the void. He had prayed for survival, for a chance to repay the debt of trust broken. Now, the situation was reversed. Aliens were trapped, shields failing under coordinated fire. Vorn's calm, commanding tone masked a fury forged in loss and betrayal. Every calculation was precise, every order deliberate. History would not repeat itself. Humanity had become the apex predator, and the hunted were now the hunters. The alien flagship emerged from the smoke of its shattered escort fleet. Vorn's hands danced over controls, issuing commands that were both strategic and personal. Memories of Perseus Gate, of fire, betrayal, and death simmered beneath his skin. "Focus on the command vessel," he said quietly. His crew understood. Every weapon, every ship, every tactic was born of centuries of human suffering. Vengeance was no longer abstract. It had a target. Humanity had survived, endured, and now demanded retribution. The last human survivors retreating into hyperspace, watching allies disappear into the stars. That fear, that anger had never left him. Now it shaped reality. Every explosion, every hull breach, every shuttle destroyed was a note in a symphony of justice. The flagship's shields faltered under concentrated fire, and Vorn felt a grim satisfaction. Missiles struck, and the alien command crumbled. Humanity had returned, not to plead, not to beg, but to reclaim honor lost in betrayal and to etch vengeance into the cosmos. The alien fleet reeled from the relentless human assault. Vorn's eyes never left the main display. Every damaged ship, every explosion, was a reminder of trust broken centuries ago. "Scan for survivors," he ordered. Behind him, junior officers moved with precision, nerves steeled by his history lessons of betrayal. The void had been cruel to humanity, but now humanity was crueler still. Every tactical decision was guided by memory. The ghosts of allies who abandoned them now whispered strategies for total annihilation. The moment when an allied dreadnought disengaged mid-battle, leaving human squadrons exposed. Vorn had yelled commands that were drowned out by the roar of detonations. Lieutenant Kara's sacrifice had saved a dozen lives, but the betrayal had left scars that never healed. Today, those scars sharpened his resolve. Enemy ships erupted in fire as his fleet executed precise maneuvers. Memory guided him. Vengeance drove him. Humanity was no longer the hunted. Humanity was the reckoning. The fleet navigated debris fields from destroyed alien ships. Sensors detected faint life signatures. Aliens attempting to flee. Vorn's grip tightened. No one escaped accountability. "Deploy boarding drones," he commanded. The AI hummed, executing thousands of calculations per second. Each drone carried the weight of lost human lives, a literal embodiment of memory seeking justice. Vorn recalled Perseus Gate, when fleeing allies left his crews trapped. Now there was no escape for any ship. Every corner of the void would remind them of humanity's wrath. Humans, cornered by superior firepower, abandoned mid-strike. Screams and alarms had echoed through empty corridors. Vorn had vowed then that no betrayal would go unpunished. Boarding drones now infiltrate alien hulls, disabling engines and weapon systems. The once proud alien crews now trembled, just as humans once had. Vorn's eyes, cold and calculating, reflected the flames outside. Memory was alive in every strike, shaping the present. Humanity had become a fleet of ghosts, carrying the weight of centuries of betrayal into every engagement. Enemy formations splintered under concentrated fire. Vorn's fleet moved like a predator, cutting through isolated cruisers with ruthless efficiency. Sensors pinged anomalies, hidden pockets of resistance, remnants of those who had fled humanity's last stand. Vorn's teeth clenched. Betrayal lingered like a toxin, teaching him vigilance. "Target weak points and isolate them," he ordered. Each strike was a lesson learned from the past, each destroyed ship a reminder of trust once broken. Humanity would not falter again. The last stand at Perseus Gate, when human lines fractured under enemy fire and allied ships vanished. Vorn had screamed over the comms, powerless, watching friends die. That memory now guided his hand. Tactical strikes cut enemy cruisers in half, flames blossoming across hulls. No vessel escaped unscathed. The past was alive in every vector and every trajectory, shaping a fleet that would not repeat the mistakes of history. Humanity's vengeance was precise, relentless, and unyielding. Vorn activated Inferno Protocol, a fleet-wide command unleashing coordinated plasma storms and missile barrages. The alien flagship shuddered, shields flickering under the relentless onslaught. Vorn's voice was calm but deadly. "Synchronize volleys, leave no gaps." Behind him, the crew executed the plan flawlessly, each action echoing decades of human survival instincts. Every pulse, every detonation, was fueled by the memory of betrayal and loss. The galaxy would remember this night as humanity's reckoning. The cold, starlit corridors of Perseus Gate filled with fire and panic as allies abandoned their posts. Vorn had vowed then that humanity would never be defenseless again. Now, every strike of Inferno Protocol was a calculated revenge, a symphony of destruction shaped by loss. Alien ships erupted in flames, shields failing, engines disabled. Vorn watched with grim satisfaction as history was rewritten in fire. Memory had become strategy, betrayal had become fuel, and humanity's vengeance burned brighter than ever. Vorn's fleet reached the edge of the alien system. The flagship, crippled but stubborn, awaited final engagement. Vorn's fingers danced across the controls, issuing commands with the calm precision of a man who had seen betrayal firsthand. Every ship in formation reflected decades of human endurance. "Prepare boarding pods and plasma lances," he instructed. The void was silent, pregnant with anticipation. Today, history would witness the apex of humanity's vengeance. The final human ships, fleeing the last stand, abandoned by all who had promised support. The faces of fallen comrades haunted him. That memory now steeled his hand. Boarding pods launched, plasma lances carved swaths through enemy hulls, and the flagship's defenses crumbled. Human ships pressed forward, relentless and unstoppable. The edge of the system became the edge of alien hope. Humanity had returned, not as victims, but as judges of betrayal, wielding memory as both weapon and shield. The fleet advanced deeper into enemy territory. Vorn's tactical display lit up with movement, enemy ships attempting desperate regrouping. The thought of hollow alliances haunted him. Allies who had promised reinforcements but vanished centuries ago. "Do not underestimate them," he warned his officers. Every maneuver was informed by memory, every salvo a message to the treacherous ghosts of humanity's past. Today, there would be no retreat, no forgiveness. Humanity had grown sharper, stronger, unrelenting. The bitter moment when human reinforcements had vanished mid-battle, leaving entire battalions to perish at Perseus Gate. The screams of dying comrades had etched themselves into Vorn's mind. Now, every enemy ship that faltered under his fleet's fire was a ledger entry of justice. Shields flared, engines exploded, and plasma arcs tore through hulls. The past had taught him patience, precision, and ruthless timing. Humanity's vengeance was methodical, inevitable, and merciless. Plasma batteries lit the darkness, raining destruction across enemy formations. Vorn's hands flew over controls, calculating trajectories and predicting evasive maneuvers. Memories of human fleets burned alive while allies fled, guided every decision. "Concentrate fire on Quadrant 7, he commanded. The crew moved as one, executing maneuvers honed through decades of loss and betrayal. Humanity's fury was no longer reactive. It was anticipatory, preemptive, and devastatingly effective. The night Allied ships abandoned their posts mid-assault, leaving human squads isolated. Vorn had shouted orders into a void, powerless to prevent disaster. That memory sharpened his instincts now. Plasma beams tore through alien shields, engines flared, and debris spun into the void. Every explosion was a note in humanity's symphony of retribution. Vorn felt the ghosts of fallen comrades beside him, lending focus to his fury. Humanity would not repeat its past mistakes. The betrayers would pay, fully and finally. An alien distress signal pulsed through communications arrays. Vorn paused, watching the display flicker. His chest tightened. Centuries ago, humans had sent last signals before destruction, ignored by allies. "Ignore it," he ordered. The fleet continued, unbroken, like a predator closing on prey. Every strike and maneuver was informed by betrayal, memory, and cold calculation. The void would not harbor excuses or lies today. Humanity demanded justice. Vorn's voice was trembling as he sent the final distress call at Perseus Gate, prayers falling into silence as allies disappeared. That memory now empowered him. Enemy ships attempting retreat were cut down with ruthless precision. Plasma arcs carved new paths through the void. Debris spun around detonations like sparks from the past. Memory became strategy. Betrayal became fuel. And vengeance became inevitable. Humanity's fleet would ensure no enemy, no traitor, escaped unscathed. The fleet enveloped the alien stronghold, shields bristling against counterfire. Vorn's hands guided the operation with surgeon-like precision. Hidden drone swarms and predictive AI mapped every possible escape route. Betrayal had taught him vigilance. Memory had taught him ruthlessness. "Deploy boarding drones to the port flank," he instructed. The void erupted with controlled destruction, the chaos orchestrated by experience and remembrance. Humanity was the shadow no enemy could escape. The hollow corridors of abandoned allies at Perseus Gate, their betrayal leaving human crews stranded. Vorn had carried that memory like a blade, shaping every future strike. Alien defenses faltered as drones infiltrated and incapacitated key systems. Engines flared, weapons erupted, and the stronghold's resistance collapsed like sand through fingers. Memory, loss, betrayal, all coalesced into a strategy. Humanity was no longer prey. It was predator, relentless and precise, delivering judgment to those who had once abandoned them. Louder than ever as the fleet closed on the alien command center. Plasma volleys ignited the void, painting the battlefield in violent streaks of fire and metal. Vorn's hands flew across controls, issuing cascading orders with perfect timing. Every strike echoed centuries of betrayal, every tactical decision honed by memory of lost comrades. Today, humanity would prove it had learned from every abandonment, every failed alliance. Vengeance was no longer just a concept. It was kinetic, precise, and unstoppable. The last moments of Perseus Gate, the helplessness, the screams, the betrayal of allies. That memory now shaped every vector, every trajectory, every detonation. Alien shields collapsed under coordinated volleys, engines flared and broke apart. Humanity had returned, tempered by fire and loss. Missiles struck, and in the wake of destruction, the void echoed with the vindication of centuries. The crucible of fire was complete. Humanity had become both sword and shield, memory and vengeance entwined. Vorn's fleet entered the shadow of the alien command station. Sensors flickered, detecting decoy ships and cloaked frigates. His jaw tightened. Ghosts of past betrayals whispered in his mind. Friends abandoned, allies who vanished mid-battle. "Do not engage without confirmation," he ordered. Each maneuver was measured, calculated, and informed by memory. Humanity would not stumble this time. Every strike was designed to leave no escape, no second chance, no mercy for those who had once abandoned them. The silent retreat of allies at Perseus Gate, leaving human battalions exposed to annihilation. Vorn's voice had cracked then, desperate over comms. Now, every vessel in formation moved as one, anticipating enemy tactics before they unfolded. Cloaked frigates erupted in controlled explosions, decoys shattered. Humanity's vengeance was methodical, surgical, and precise. Memory had become a weapon, betrayal a guide, and Vorn's fleet an unstoppable force rewriting the rules of survival in the galaxy. The fleet approached the alien flagship's defensive perimeter. Plasma turrets lit the void, arcs of deadly energy cutting swaths through enemy formations. Vorn's fingers flew across the console, coordinating volleys with surgical precision. Memories of abandoned comrades sharpened his focus. No hesitation, no mercy, no repeats. "Converge on the port quadrant. Maximize firepower," he barked. Every explosion was a statement. Humanity had returned, armed with memory, anger, and lethal resolve. The helplessness of human squadrons at Perseus Gate, watching allies disengage mid-assault. That pain was now a weapon, guiding Vorn's hand. Plasma streams ripped through enemy shields. Engines flared and ignited. Debris spun across the void. The fleet's coordination was perfect, each strike reflecting the lessons of betrayal. Humanity was no longer reactive. They dictated the terms of engagement. Every enemy ship destroyed was a ledger entry of justice, every explosion a verse in the symphony of retribution. Distant sensors detected ships resembling former allies. Vorn's teeth clenched. Ghosts from centuries past, ships that had promised aid only to flee, lurked at the edge of battle. "Identify and isolate," he commanded. The fleet moved like a predator, anticipating every maneuver. Memory of betrayal fueled precision. Every missile, every plasma arc was a message. Humanity remembered, and it never forgave. The last humans retreating, allies disappearing, and despair settling over surviving crews. Vorn had felt that void inside him, a rage that never waned. Now, that memory guided action. Enemy ships were trapped in coordinated volleys, shields collapsing under relentless assault. Engines flared, weapons systems ignited, and human torpedoes tore through hulls. Humanity was no longer the prey, it was the reckoning. Vorn's vengeance was unstoppable, his strategy unerring. The past was alive in every strike. The fleet pierced the alien flagship's outer defenses. Plasma storms collided with shields, scattering energy in violent arcs. Vorn's voice was calm, precise. Engage Point Delta. Synchronize every battery. The bridge vibrated with energy as each ship executed orders with deadly accuracy. Memory of betrayal from Perseus Gate guided his tactics. Humanity had endured, learned, and adapted. Today, Firestorm and memory combined create an unstoppable force. The night human battalions were left to die, abandoned by allies. Vorn's fear had turned to rage, rage into determination. Now, plasma volleys shredded enemy hulls, engines exploded in showers of fire, shields collapsed under concentrated assault. Each strike was informed by history, each move a lesson in survival and vengeance. Humanity was no longer reacting. They were orchestrating, leading, and punishing. Memory was their weapon, betrayal their fuel, and the firestorm their judgment. Vorn's fleet surrounded the alien flagship. Tactical AI displayed every possible exit, none available. "Prepare boarding pods and focus volleys on critical systems," he ordered. The void was tense, waiting. Centuries of betrayal and loss sharpened every decision. Humanity had endured, learned, and evolved. Today they were the hunters, the judges, and the executioners. Every vessel in formation moved with one purpose: to obliterate the command center and ensure no escape. The final moments of human fleets at Perseus Gate, allies fleeing, screams echoing in corridors and across comm channels. That memory fueled Vorn's final assault. Plasma lances tore through hulls, engines flared, and boarding pods hit the flagship with precision. The alien command trembled under relentless fire. Humanity's vengeance was absolute. Fire and metal consumed the enemy flagship. Memory had become strategy. Betrayal had become a weapon, and the edge of oblivion had been reached. The alien flagship began to list, its shields flickering under relentless fire. Vorn's eyes scanned the tactical display, noting secondary weapons still operational. Memories of Perseus Gate sharpened his focus. Ships abandoned, comrades lost, helpless screams echoing in corridors. "Target secondary arrays and deploy plasma swarms," he ordered. The fleet moved with precision, each maneuver guided by centuries of betrayal, each strike a ledger of justice. Humanity would not falter now. The last human squadrons retreating, their allies disappearing into the void. Vorn had felt the hollow weight of abandonment then, a pain he carried into every command. Plasma swarms shredded the alien flagship's defenses, engines sparking under concentrated fire. Every explosion reflected memory and rage, each detonation a statement. Humanity remembered, and it never forgave. The horizon was painted with fire, but this time, humanity controlled it. Boarding pods pierced the alien hull. Vorn's voice was calm yet commanding. "Sync with internal assault teams. No ship survives intact." Inside the corridors, drones mapped every passage, disabling defenses. Memory of betrayal guided every step. Past mistakes would not repeat. Humanity's vengeance moved through corridors of metal, systematically dismantling resistance. Every breach was precision, every strike calculated. Vorn had crawled through Perseus Gate's ruined corridors, dodging debris and fire while allies fled, leaving chaos behind. That desperation now became skill. Boarding drones disabled enemy weapons. Plasma lances lit passageways ablaze. Aliens who had once taunted human fleets now cowered. Memory had become an algorithm, betrayal a fuel, and vengeance a methodical art. Humanity's march was unstoppable, lethal, and meticulous. The alien flagship's command core glowed, signaling imminent failure. Sensors detected faint life signs, commanders attempting escape. Vorn's jaw tightened. "Intercept all escape pods. No one leaves," he ordered. The void was silent, pregnant with anticipation. Every strike, every maneuver was guided by memory of abandoned comrades and burned colonies. Humanity would leave no ghosts this time. The emptiness of Perseus Gate as allies vanished mid-battle, leaving human survivors to perish. That memory sharpened Vorn's hand. Escape pods were intercepted, engines disabled, hulls torn apart. Plasma arcs carved paths through the void, each explosion a note in the symphony of retribution. Humanity's vengeance was no longer reactionary. It was inevitable, precise, and absolute. Every alien life that tried to flee would answer for centuries of betrayal. The flagship's hull buckled under combined assaults. Tactical AI highlighted vulnerable sectors. Vorn coordinated final volleys. "Converge all fire on the command core. Prepare boarding for the final strike," he said. The fleet moved with clockwork precision. Memories of Perseus Gate guided each ship, each decision, each explosion. Betrayal had taught humanity patience and ruthlessness, and now the lesson would be applied in full. Helplessly watching the last humans retreat while allies escaped. That pain now fueled precision. Plasma beams converged, shields faltered, engines flamed, and boarding pods launched. The flagship quaked under human vengeance. Every strike was personal, every maneuver a reflection of centuries of abandonment. Memory had become strategy. Betrayal had become a weapon. Humanity would not be denied victory nor forgiveness. Louder than ever as the command core destabilized, Vorn's hands moved over controls with unerring precision. "Final salvo. Engage core breach protocols," he ordered. The fleet held formation, weapons synchronized, shields flaring in anticipation. Memories of burned worlds and vanished allies drove each decision. Today, justice would be delivered and betrayal avenged. Humanity's vengeance was absolute, kinetic, and irreversible. The last moments of Perseus Gate, the helpless screams, the silence of departed allies. That memory now manifested as the final strike. The flagship's core erupted in flames, hull splitting and twisting under concentrated fire, shockwaves rippling across the void. Humanity had returned not as victims, but as judges. Memory had been the weapon, betrayal the fuel, and vengeance the ultimate verdict. The void echoed with the roar of retribution. The alien flagship shattered into fragments. Vorn's eyes scanned debris fields for survivors, every sensor ping a reminder of past betrayals. "Sweep for escapees," he ordered. The fleet moved like a predator through the ashes, plasma trails lighting the void. Memory of Perseus Gate guided each maneuver. Every destroyed ship was both vengeance and a lesson. Humanity's fury left no room for mercy. The hollow silence as human crews were abandoned while allies disappeared. That emptiness had forged Vorn's resolve. Now, escape pods were intercepted. Boarding drones swept corridors, disabling engines and weapons. The void burned with precise devastation. Every explosion echoed the memory of betrayal. Every action a message. Humanity remembered, and it never forgave. Humanity's vengeance was deliberate, relentless, and total. Distant signatures appeared on the scanners, cloaked ships trying to flee the wreckage. Vorn's jaw tightened. Ghosts from centuries past, allies and betrayers alike, attempting to vanish. "Activate sensor sweeps and magnetic traps," he commanded. The fleet adjusted formation, moving like a predator through the darkness. Memory of lost comrades guided precision. No one would escape today. The night allies vanished mid-battle, leaving humans exposed to annihilation. Vorn had screamed commands that went unheard. Now, every cloaked ship was detected, disabled, or destroyed. Plasma arcs tore through hulls, engines flared, and escape was impossible. The past had become strategy. Betrayal had become fuel, and humanity's vengeance was inescapable. Every ship destroyed was a note in the symphony of retribution. Concentrated volleys carved paths through remaining alien cruisers. Vorn's tactical display flickered under the strain of continuous fire. "Focus plasma streams on shields, then breach," he ordered. Every strike was informed by centuries of loss and betrayal. Humanity moved like a single organism, relentless, preemptive, precise. Memory of Perseus Gate guided each trajectory. Vengeance dictated every decision. The helpless human forces at Perseus Gate, abandoned, burning. That trauma now sharpened every calculation. Enemy shields collapsed under coordinated volleys, engines erupted in fire, and debris spun across the void. Humanity's fleet executed a perfect symphony of destruction. Memory had become a weapon. Betrayal had become guidance. No ship would escape, no enemy would survive, and vengeance would echo across the stars. Scattered enemy formations attempted to regroup. Vorn's lips tightened. "Divide and isolate. No regrouping allowed," he commanded. Every human ship moved with lethal precision, predicting maneuvers and exploiting weaknesses. Memories of abandoned allies at Perseus Gate sharpened instincts. Every attack was both strategic and personal. Betrayal had forged a fleet that could not fail. Watching human lines fracture as allies vanished mid-battle, leaving crews vulnerable. That memory now guided action. Enemy formations crumbled under human fire, shields flared, and hulls broke apart. Each strike was a lesson learned from centuries of betrayal, every maneuver a reflection of loss transformed into skill. Humanity's vengeance was unstoppable, surgical, and absolute. No enemy, no traitor would escape unpunished. The final pockets of resistance fell into range. Vorn's voice cut through the bridge. "Converge all firepower, end this." The fleet moved with lethal synchronization, plasma arcs converging on the last alien strongholds. Every action was shaped by memory of betrayal. Every strike a promise to fallen comrades. Humanity's vengeance was no longer a possibility. It was inevitability, kinetic and absolute. The last moments at Perseus Gate, allies disappearing, human crews screaming, ships exploding in the void. That memory fueled Vorn's assault. Shields collapsed, engines flared, weapons erupted, nothing survived the human convergence. Memory became method, betrayal became fuel, and vengeance became reality. Plasma lit the void, and the embers of retribution consumed the remnants of the alien Armada. Humanity had returned, not to plead, not to negotiate, but to claim justice in fire. The fleet approached the outer rim of the alien sector. Vorn's eyes scanned for hidden ambushes. Every maneuver was informed by memory, of Perseus Gate, of betrayal, of friends lost. "Activate wide-spectrum sensors. No surprises," he commanded. Plasma trails streaked across the void, lighting debris fields in crimson flashes. Humanity's vengeance moved like a living entity, precise and unrelenting. Allies fleeing, leaving human battalions trapped under concentrated fire. Vorn had felt despair transform into rage. Now, every enemy cruiser detected was a target. Engines flared, shields shattered, and debris spun across the void in a dance of destruction. Memory had become weaponized, betrayal had become strategy, and every strike carried the weight of centuries of unavenged loss. Vorn coordinated simultaneous strikes across multiple enemy clusters. Tactical AI predicted evasive maneuvers, every trajectory shaped by historical data and personal loss. "Divide and suppress. No regrouping," he commanded. The fleet moved like a predator in perfect synchronization. Humanity's fury was methodical, every volley calculated, every explosion deliberate. Vorn remembered the helpless screams as human crews were abandoned, allies drifting into the void. That trauma sharpened every decision. Plasma beams tore through shields, engines erupted, and enemy hulls were splintered into fire and metal. Memory fueled every attack. Betrayal guided every strike. Humanity was no longer reactive. They were orchestrating, leading, and punishing. The void echoed with retribution. The fleet closed on the final alien cruisers attempting escape. Vorn's voice was calm but lethal. Intercept all pods. No one survives. The fleet split, moving in synchronized patterns, cutting off every route. Memories of abandoned comrades sharpened precision. Betrayal now dictated tactics. Humanity would leave no ghosts, watching allies flee mid-battle, leaving human crews exposed. That emptiness now became a weapon. Escape pods were destroyed, engines disabled, and plasma arcs lit corridors ablaze. Every strike reflected memory and rage, every maneuver a lesson learned. Humanity's vengeance was surgical, absolute, and inescapable. Every enemy vessel destroyed carried centuries of justice. The fleet unleashed concentrated fire on the alien command nexus. Shields collapsed under plasma storms, hulls fractured under missile salvos. Vorn's hands moved with perfect timing, orchestrating a deadly ballet. Memory of betrayal sharpened focus. Every move accounted for past mistakes. Humanity's vengeance became kinetic, unstoppable, and exacting. Perseus Gate, human ships surrounded, and allies gone. Vorn had shouted commands that went unheard, his crew facing annihilation alone. Now, every salvo executed flawlessly. Every ship destroyed perfectly, mirrored that memory. Fire lit the void, engines exploded, and the alien command crumbled. Memory had become strategy. Betrayal had become fuel. Vengeance was total. Humanity would not be denied. The fleet converged on the shattered command nexus. Boarding pods deployed, plasma lances carved swaths through corridors, and drones disabled critical systems. Vorn's voice cut across the bridge. Prepare for final boarding. Leave no survivors. Centuries of betrayal had taught patience, ruthlessness, and precision. Humanity was the judge now, and judgment was absolute. The last human survivors fled while allies abandoned them, screaming as ships exploded in the void. That memory now guided action. Alien commanders were trapped, engines failed, shields down. Humanity's vengeance was absolute, methodical, and unstoppable. Weapons erupted, and corridors became crucibles of fire. Memory had become a weapon, betrayal the fuel, and vengeance the ultimate verdict. Humanity had returned to claim justice, and nothing would survive to deny it. Boarding pods slammed into the alien command vessel. Drones scoured corridors, disabling turrets and cutting power grids. Vorn's voice was calm, measured. Sync internal teams with external strikes. No room for error. Memories of Perseus Gate, ships abandoned, crews left to die, guided every movement. Humanity's vengeance flowed like fire through metal corridors, precise and unstoppable. Vorn is navigating the burning corridors of Perseus Gate, allies gone, comrades dying around him. That memory-sharpened strategy. Plasma lances ignited passageways, drones disabled systems, and alien crews fell before them. Each explosion reflected centuries of loss, and each move was a lesson in betrayal transformed into power. Humanity was no longer prey. It was the executioner, exacting justice through fire and precision. The flagship shuddered under relentless assault. Shields flickered, failing under coordinated plasma strikes. Vorn's fingers danced across the controls, issuing cascading commands. Focus on core systems. Disable all defensive outputs. The fleet moved like one organism, each strike guided by memory and honed by betrayal. Humanity's vengeance was surgical and inexorable. Human ships surrounded at Perseus Gate, abandoned by allies, their cries lost to the void. That memory now guided precision strikes. Engines flared, shields collapsed, Hulls fractured under concentrated fire. Every explosion mirrored the pain of centuries-old betrayal. Humanity's vengeance was no longer reactive. It was calculated, unstoppable, and absolute. No enemy, no traitor would escape judgment. Vorn's fleet concentrated fire on the alien command corps. Plasma streams converged, missile salvos detonating in synchronized arcs. "Prepare boarding pods for final breach," he commanded. Memories of abandoned comrades and destroyed fleets guided every decision. Humanity would not fail. Every vessel moved with lethal precision, every strike a reflection of vengeance honed over centuries. The helpless cries at Perseus Gate as human ships were left to burn, abandoned mid-battle. That memory sharpened Vorn's tactics. Core shields collapsed under simultaneous volleys, engines flared, and corridors ignited in fire. Humanity's fleet operated as a single entity, each action fueled by memory, betrayal, and unyielding determination. The final breach would be absolute, delivering centuries of vengeance in one crushing stroke. Boarding teams moved through corridors now blazing with plasma fire. Vorn's voice rang out, "Secure the command hub. Neutralize all resistance." Memories of betrayal guided every tactical choice. Every pod, every drone, every plasma arc was part of a meticulously orchestrated assault. Humanity's vengeance was focused, unstoppable, and absolute. The last moments at Perseus Gate, allies disappearing into the void while human crews fought to survive. That despair became lethal precision. Alien defenses collapsed under systematic strikes. Corridors erupted in flames, engines failed, and resistance crumbled. Memory had become a weapon, betrayal had become fuel, and vengeance was unstoppable. Humanity's final judgment would be delivered with fire, precision, and inevitability. The flagship's core glowed, ready to detonate. Vorn's hands moved with calculated speed. Evacuate boarding teams. Focus energy on containment and detonation timing. The void trembled with anticipation. Memories of Perseus Gate, loss, betrayal, death, shaped every decision. Humanity was about to deliver its ultimate verdict. Fleeing survivors at Perseus Gate, allies gone, ships exploding in silence. That memory now directed action. Plasma streams sealed corridors, engines flared, and the command hub's core destabilized under precise human strikes. Humanity's vengeance had reached its apex. Betrayal would no longer haunt the survivors. The core ignited, and the void trembled. Humanity had returned not as prey, but as judge, jury, and executioner. Vorn's fleet surged toward the remaining alien clusters. Plasma trails streaked across the void, illuminating debris fields. Every maneuver was precise, informed by centuries of betrayal and loss. "Focus volleys on concentrated enemy formations. No gaps," he commanded. Humanity's vengeance moved like a living storm, calculated, relentless, unstoppable. The hollow silence as allies vanished mid-battle, leaving human squadrons stranded. That memory sharpened every decision. Enemy shields flared and failed, engines erupted, and debris spun through the void in controlled chaos. Memory had become a weapon, betrayal had become fuel, and every strike carried the weight of centuries of justice. Humanity would not falter, and no enemy would escape. Vorn's fleet entered the final defensive rings of the alien sector. Tactical AI highlighted every escape route, every cloaked frigate. "Sweep for all anomalies. No one escapes," he ordered. Memory of abandoned allies at Perseus Gate guided every decision. Humanity's vengeance was both meticulous and inexorable, watching allies retreat while human fleets burned, helpless and abandoned. That memory now sharpened the strategy. Cloaked ships were exposed and destroyed, engines disabled, weapons neutralized. Plasma arcs lit corridors, shields failed, and resistance crumbled. Humanity's vengeance was absolute, precise, and inescapable. Every strike was a ledger of justice, every explosion a verse in the symphony of retribution. Boarding teams breached the final alien command bastion. Drones disabled turrets, plasma lances ignited corridors, and human squads advanced with lethal precision. Vorn's voice rang out, "Secure the hub and eliminate all resistance." Memory of past betrayals guided every step. Humanity moved like a single, unstoppable organism. Perseus Gate, human crews abandoned. Fire and chaos consuming every corridor. That trauma is now transformed into tactical perfection. Boarding teams disabled weapons, breached corridors, and neutralized resistance. Every explosion echoed centuries of loss. Every strike reflected the pain of betrayal turned into vengeance. Humanity was no longer prey. It was predator, judge, and executioner. The command core glimmered under coordinated human fire. Shields faltered, hulls cracked, and the void ignited with controlled destruction. "Prepare for synchronized core breach," Vorn commanded. Every maneuver reflected memory of abandoned allies. Every strike delivered centuries of justice. Humanity's vengeance was total, precise, and inescapable. The last human survivors screamed as allies vanished, ships exploding around them. That memory now shaped every action. Core shields collapsed, engines flared, and corridors erupted in plasma fire. Memory became strategy, betrayal became fuel, and vengeance became reality. Humanity's fleet moved with unstoppable precision, delivering judgment across the void. The flagship's core destabilized, ready to explode. Vorn's hands moved swiftly over controls. "Evacuate boarding teams and synchronize final detonation," he ordered. The void vibrated with anticipation, memories of Perseus Gate. Loss, abandonment, betrayal directed every command. Humanity's final verdict was imminent. The helpless human crews at Perseus Gate, abandoned by allies, scream into silence. That memory now manifested as the final strike. Plasma arcs tore through hulls, engines erupted, and the core fractured under concentrated fire. Humanity's vengeance had reached its apex. Betrayal could no longer haunt them. Fire consumed the alien flagship. Memory had become a weapon. Betrayal fuel. And humanity's judgment was absolute. The last alien cruisers scattered into the void, desperately attempting escape. Vorn's eyes scanned the tactical display. No route went unmonitored. "Intercept all remaining targets," he commanded. Memories of Perseus Gate, ships abandoned, comrades lost, guided every maneuver. Humanity's vengeance was methodical, merciless, and absolute. Human crews stranded, allies disappearing mid-battle, corridors filled with fire and screams. That memory now guided action. Cloaked ships were illuminated, engines disabled, and hulls erupted under coordinated fire. Memory had become a weapon, betrayal fuel, and vengeance unstoppable. Every explosion was a ledger of justice, every strike a reflection of centuries of loss and endurance. Humanity would allow no reprieve. Vorn's fleet advanced toward the alien retreat points. Plasma arcs streaked across the void, illuminating debris in violent flashes. "Converge on Quadrant Delta. Seal all exits," he ordered. The fleet moved like a predator, lethal, synchronized, and unrelenting. Memory of betrayal guided precision, shaping every strike with surgical accuracy. Perseus Gate, helpless crews abandoned while allies vanished. That trauma now fueled every move. Engines flared, shields collapsed, and debris spun in controlled chaos. Humanity's vengeance was premeditated, calibrated, and inescapable. Every strike, every maneuver, was a reflection of centuries-old betrayal transformed into lethal strategy. The tide of fire would leave no enemy alive. Boarding teams swept remaining alien vessels. Drones mapped corridors, disabled weapons, and neutralized resistance with lethal efficiency. Vorn's voice cut through the bridge. "Secure all command hubs, no exceptions." Memory of Perseus Gate guided each decision. Humanity's vengeance left no room for mercy. Abandoned human crews fighting alone. Corridors burning, allies vanished. That memory now forged precision. Plasma lances lit corridors, drones disabled systems, and alien crews fell before them. Every strike was personal. Every move a reflection of centuries of betrayal and loss. Humanity had returned as predator, judge, and executioner, unstoppable and absolute. The fleet unleashed synchronized volleys on the alien flagship remnants. Shields faltered, engines exploded, and the void lit with violent arcs of plasma. Vorn's hands moved with flawless precision. "Prepare final core breach. Execute when ready," he commanded. Memories of betrayal guided every vector, every trajectory. Humanity's vengeance had reached a boiling point. The last moments at Perseus Gate, helpless and abandoned. That memory now became a strategy. Core shields collapsed, engines flared, corridors ignited. Humanity's fleet moved with perfect coordination, each action a reflection of centuries of loss, betrayal, and vengeance. Every enemy vessel destroyed carried the weight of human memory and retribution. Humanity would leave no shadow of the betrayers alive. The flagship's core destabilized, minutes from detonation. Vorn's voice was calm, commanding. "Evacuate all boarding teams. Synchronize final breach." The void trembled under anticipation. Memories of Perseus Gate, loss, betrayal, death guided every movement. Humanity's ultimate judgment was at hand. The abandoned human crews, flames consuming corridors, allies fleeing. That memory now became kinetic. Plasma arcs tore through hulls, engines erupted, and shields collapsed. Humanity's vengeance had reached its apex. The core ignited, fire consuming the alien command structure. Memory had become a weapon, betrayal fuel, and humanity's verdict was absolute. The void echoed with retribution, and the galaxy would never forget. The last alien vessels floundered, hulls smoking, engines failing. Vorn's eyes scanned every sensor, ensuring no escape. "Sweep the void. Confirm total neutralization," he commanded. Memories of Perseus Gate, the betrayal, the helpless cries, guided every maneuver. Humanity's vengeance left nothing unpunished. Allies fleeing mid-battle, leaving human crews trapped amid fire and destruction. That memory now sharpened action. Cloaked ships illuminated and destroyed, debris spiraling through the void. Every strike reflected centuries of loss, betrayal, and survival. Humanity was no longer prey. It was predator and judge, wielding memory as both weapon and shield. The fleet advanced toward the remaining escape pods. Vorn's tactical AI calculated every vector, predicting evasive maneuvers. "Intercept all pods. No one leaves," he ordered. Every strike carried the weight of centuries of betrayal and death. Humanity's vengeance moved like a perfect storm. Perseus Gate, human squads abandoned, corridors ablaze, allies gone. That trauma now drove precision. Pods were intercepted, engines disabled, shields destroyed. Memory became strategy, betrayal fuel, vengeance kinetic. Humanity would not forgive, and no enemy would survive to haunt the galaxy again. Boarding teams cleared the final command vessels. Drones mapped every corridor, disabling weapon systems and clearing resistance. Vorn's voice cut across the bridge. "Secure all hubs. Complete the purge." Memory of lost comrades guided every step. Humanity's vengeance was absolute. The empty corridors of Perseus Gate, allies gone, human crews fighting alone. That memory now became lethal precision. Plasma lances ignited corridors, engines failed, shields collapsed. Every strike was a reflection of centuries of betrayal and survival. Humanity had returned as predator, judge, and executioner, unstoppable, relentless, and total. The flagship's core glowed violently, Moments from detonation. Vorn's hands moved with perfect timing. Prepare, synchronized breach, final strike. Plasma arcs converged, shields failed, engines flared. Memories of Perseus Gate sharpened every decision. Humanity's vengeance reached its peak. The helpless screams of abandoned crews at Perseus Gate. That memory now dictated every action. Core shields collapsed, corridors ignited, engines exploded. Humanity's fleet moved with perfect coordination, every strike a note in the symphony of centuries-old vengeance. No enemy would survive, and the galaxy would remember the reckoning. The alien flagship shattered, fire and debris scattering across the void. Vorn surveyed the aftermath. The fleet had executed flawless vengeance, leaving no survivors. Memories of betrayal, loss, and abandonment had guided every decision, every strike. Humanity had returned, not as prey, but as judge, jury, and executioner. Perseus Gate, the abandonment, the screams, the fire-consuming human crews, that memory had fueled centuries of vengeance, now complete. The void was silent except for the roar of engines and the flicker of distant plasma. Humanity's judgment had been delivered. Memory had become a weapon, betrayal fuel, and the galaxy had witnessed the ultimate reckoning. The void remembered. The end. Thank you for watching AstroMyths. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales, cosmic mysteries, and mind-bending myths. And if you like this story or have a myth, mystery, or galaxy you'd like us to explore, drop your ideas in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your mind open to the unknown.